Chosen one. This message is going to go straight to the deepest place in your heart, the place where you still carry the sting of betrayal, not from strangers, but from those you called family. If you've ever asked yourself, why did the people I loved the most hurt me the worst? Then this word is yours. This isn't a coincidence. This is a prophetic confirmation that your story has been unfolding exactly like Joseph's, and God has not forgotten a single piece of it. You've been misunderstood, mocked, isolated, lied on, pushed aside like you didn't matter, but God saw all of it, and more than that, He allowed it, because He's been shaping something greater in you. Just like Joseph, your rejection was your redirection. What broke you is what birthed you, and the same family that couldn't stand your light will one day witness your rise. Don't scroll past this. Don't ignore the pull in your spirit. You are a Joseph in this generation. You were set apart for something divine, but the price was betrayal, and you're not alone. This message will explain the pain, reveal the pattern, and remind you your destiny is still intact. Comment 444 if this message is already speaking to you. Comment, I am Joseph. If your spirit knows this is your story, then subscribe to Rise of the Chosen, tap the bell, and share this with someone whose own family broke them. Let's begin. The Joseph Blueprint, a destiny formed in rejection. If your life has been marked by rejection, jealousy, betrayal, and abandonment, especially from your own family, you are not cursed, you are called. Your journey hasn't been random. It's been prophetically patterned after one of the most powerful leaders in the Bible, Joseph. His life is a divine blueprint for the chosen ones who are born to lead, but shaped through suffering. Joseph was not just rejected, he was rejected by his own blood brothers. The very people who should have protected him, celebrated his dreams, and nurtured his future were the same ones who plotted to destroy him. Why? Because of a dream, because of a vision, because of the undeniable favor on his life. And if that story feels too familiar, it's because you are walking in the same anointing. Before Joseph ever touched Pharaoh's palace, he was pushed into a pit. Before he wore royal garments, he wore prison chains. Before he gave food to a nation, he was starved of love, loyalty, and belonging. And this is the blueprint God uses with his most strategic vessels. Rejection becomes the womb of revelation. Isolation becomes the incubator for leadership, and betrayal becomes the bridge to destiny. You've been wondering why your family couldn't accept you, why they mocked your spiritual sensitivity, why they treated you like an outsider. But let's be honest, you were never one of them in spirit. You came from them, but you were not sent for them. You were born to be a deliverer, and deliverers are always misunderstood at home. God allowed their rejection because He knew their acceptance would have limited you. You would have stayed small to make them comfortable. You would have watered down your purpose to keep their approval. So instead, God let them push you out, not to abandon you, but to release you into your greater calling. Joseph didn't chase after those who betrayed him. He didn't go back to prove himself. He didn't fight to be understood. And you don't need to either, because your validation is not in their applause. It's in your assignment. The more they rejected him, the more God redirected him toward the palace, and so it is with you. This is the blueprint. First the pit, then the process, then the power. But so many chosen ones get stuck in the pit of pain, never realizing that what happened to them is the very evidence of who they are becoming. God didn't let your story fall apart. He was letting it fall into place. But you had to go through the rejection to awaken the resilience in you. Joseph was never ordinary. Neither are you. His dreams weren't random. They were prophetic previews of his position. And your dreams, your vision, your sensitivity, that's not just your imagination. That's your destiny speaking. That's heaven reminding you, you were born to rise. But rise for what? Joseph didn't ascend for his own glory. He was elevated because God needed a vessel with enough character, humility, and wisdom to save a generation. And that's why you had to be broken first. Because only a broken vessel can be trusted to carry glory. Pride would have ruined you. Validation would have blinded you. Comfort would have trapped you. But pain made you ready. Chosen one, look at your life again. Look at every moment of rejection, every false accusation, every broken relationship. That wasn't the enemy ruining your life. That was God allowing you to be forged like Joseph. He didn't stop the betrayal because the betrayal was the beginning. The pit wasn't punishment. It was positioning. The rejection wasn't random. It was revelation. Because once Joseph made it to the palace, the same brothers who tried to kill him were the ones who had to bow before him, not to worship him, but to receive life through him. And the time is coming when those who rejected you will witness the glory God places on your life. Not because you need revenge, but because God writes full circle stories. So yes, your destiny is written like Joseph. It began in pain. It continued through rejection. But it ends in elevation. For a purpose far greater than just your own healing, it ends in impact, authority, legacy. Your name is written in heaven as one who will gather, preserve, and lead. And this rejection you faced? It's not the end, it's the prophecy, and it's coming to pass. Why your family had to turn on you. Chosen one. I know it's one of the hardest pills to swallow. That the very people you loved, honored, and trusted the most were the ones who wounded you the deepest, and not just by accident. Some did it intentionally, with their words, their silence, their jealousy, or their rejection. You tried to understand it, tried to make peace with it, even blamed yourself at times. But here is the truth your spirit needs to hear. They had to turn on you because you were set apart. Yes, it hurt. Yes, it felt personal. But in the spirit, it was prophetic. Just like Joseph, you carry something that your family couldn't handle. They didn't reject you as much as they rejected the weight of your calling. They sensed something in you. The dream, the favor, the light, the wisdom. And instead of covering it, they feared it. They competed with it. They tried to crush it. Not because they were evil, but because they weren't assigned to carry what you carry. God allowed it. Because if they hadn't turned on you, you wouldn't have left. You would have stayed in a space that couldn't sustain your destiny. You would have kept shrinking to be accepted, kept hiding your depth to be normal, and kept walking in circles to stay connected. So God let the tension increase. He let the loyalty break. He let the separation happen. Because if you didn't walk away, He knew they would push you, and both routes would lead to the same outcome, your release. This is the uncomfortable truth. God will allow betrayal to birth your becoming. The ones who turned on you were part of the process. Their rejection wasn't an interruption to your destiny. It was an initiation into it. God saw what you couldn't. He knew that those who were closest to you would also be the ones who tried to keep you small, keep you average, and keep you bound to cycles you were born to break. That's why the warfare was always worse around them. That's why your peace always disappeared in their presence. That's why you felt like an outsider in your own family, even when you hadn't done anything wrong. Your spirit knew the truth before your mind could grasp it. This is not where I can stay. And God made sure of it. Look at Jesus. Even he was rejected in his hometown. A prophet is not without honor, except in his own house. Why? Because people close to you struggle to separate who you were from who God is calling you to be. They remember your mistakes, your flaws, your immaturity. They don't see the oil. They don't see the growth. And if God let you stay where people only remember your past, you'd never step fully into your future. So yes, they had to turn on you. Not because they were right, not because you were wrong, but because their hearts were not equipped to handle your calling. And that's okay. God never required their approval. He only required your obedience. You are not here to prove yourself to them. You are not here to make them understand. You are here to move forward, to obey heaven, to walk in the very thing they tried to keep you from. And no, this isn't about bitterness. This isn't about revenge. This is about understanding. When you understand that their rejection was part of God's protection, you release the weight of needing them to apologize. You stop rehearsing what they did. You stop looking back for closure, because now you see, God was separating you to preserve you. Joseph's brothers didn't just betray him. They were used by God to push him into a process that would ultimately elevate him above the very ones who hurt him. And yet, when Joseph finally saw them again, he didn't throw their betrayal in their faces. He said, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good." That's the kind of clarity that only comes through pain, and it's the kind of clarity you're walking into now. You were not rejected because you were unworthy. You were rejected because you were too worthy to stay where you were. You were not broken because you were weak. You were broken because you were being reshaped for purpose. So stop mourning who didn't stay. Stop chasing after what God removed. Stop asking, "Why did they treat me like that?" Instead, say this: "Thank you, God, for using what hurt me to lead me into who I truly am." Chosen one, you've been betrayed, but not buried. You've been cast out, but never cancelled. You've been pushed down, but now you are being pulled up. They had to turn on you, but now God is turning it all for your good. God uses betrayal as a launch pad. Chosen one, the very thing that tried to break you is the same thing God is using to launch you. What the enemy thought would silence you, shame you, or sabotage your calling is actually being transformed by heaven into the fuel for your elevation. And here's the truth: most people never want to admit. Without the betrayal, you never would have gotten here. Let that sink in. The betrayal wasn't a detour, it was the doorway. It was the exact tool God used to shake you out of comfort and throw you headfirst into your purpose. Just like Joseph, you would have never reached the palace if you hadn't been first betrayed and thrown into a pit. God allowed the betrayal not to destroy you, but to reveal what was inside you: resilience, authority, faith, character, and strength. The kind that only comes from having your heart ripped open and yet still choosing to stand with integrity. You see, God uses betrayal as a separation tool. It cuts you off from the familiar so he can position you for the unfamiliar, the new territory, the higher platform, the heavier anointing. If Joseph's brothers had accepted his dream, he would have stayed with them. But God had nations waiting on the other side of his rejection, and in your life it's no different. God is not in the business of wasting pain. Every betrayal you've faced has been allowed for a kingdom reason. Think about it. Betrayal doesn't just hurt, it exposes. It reveals who was never really for you. It shows you who only loved the version of you that stayed small, silent, and submissive to their dysfunction. Betrayal shakes off the masks. It purifies your circle. It clears your environment. And most importantly, it breaks your dependence on people who were never designed to carry your destiny. And while betrayal may come from people, don't miss this: God controls the outcome. Joseph's brothers made the decision, yes, but God allowed it because God is sovereign even over your enemies. What they meant for evil, he repackaged into purpose. That pain pushed Joseph into the journey that refined him into the kind of man who could handle power without pride. And that's what betrayal does. It doesn't just launch you into position, it also strips you of the emotional weight that would have ruined you later. You can't lead a nation with bitterness in your heart. You can't manage influence with unresolved wounds. You can't carry mantles when you're still craving people's validation. And so God used betrayal to break that off of you. Not to harm you, but to prepare you for where you're going. And here's something else. Your anointing was always going to cost you something. Chosen ones aren't formed in safe, easy environments. They're formed in fire. And betrayal was your fire. It purified your motives. It humbled you. It made you run to God in a way that comfort never would. That loneliness, that anger, that rejection, that pain forced you into a depth that others will never know. And that depth is what makes your voice powerful. People are drawn to your words not because you've read a book or studied theology, but because you've lived it. You've survived what others couldn't. And that survival is your authority. That is why God uses betrayal to launch leaders, because it produces a type of authenticity and credibility that fake religion and surface-level living can never replicate. So stop seeing betrayal as a setback. It was a spiritual slingshot. They pushed you down, and God used that momentum to pull you back, build pressure, and now He's about to release you forward with force. If you hadn't been betrayed, you wouldn't have been prepared. If you hadn't been lied on, you wouldn't have learned how to depend on God's voice above man's. If you hadn't been left out, you wouldn't have made room for what heaven is sending now. And now, just like Joseph, you're standing at the edge of your palace season. You're not there because of the people who helped you. You're there because of the people who hurt you. They may never know it, but their betrayal was the very thing God used to launch you into your leadership, your authority, and your assignment. So instead of hating them, bless them. Instead of cursing the betrayal, thank God for using it. Instead of replaying the pain, reframe it as preparation. Because now you're not broken, you're built. You're not bitter, you're bold. You're not behind. You've been launched, and nothing can stop what God is about to do with your life. You were never meant to fit in with them. Chosen one. One of the most painful parts of your story has been feeling like you never belonged, not even in your own family. You always felt different, even as a child. You were the quiet one, the deep thinker, the sensitive soul. You saw what others didn't. You heard what they ignored. You felt things more deeply. And while you tried for years to blend in, no matter how much you gave, changed, or compromised, it was never enough to be accepted. But here's the truth. You need to finally accept in your spirit. You were never meant to fit in. God did not assign you to be one of them. He assigned you to be set apart. That rejection you felt wasn't a curse. It was your marking. That discomfort in certain rooms, that feeling of being too much or not enough at the same time. That was divine agitation. It was heaven reminding your spirit that you don't belong in circles that cannot carry your calling. It's not arrogance, it's assignment. It's not that you're better than them, it's that you're different by design. You carry a different frequency. You walk with a different weight. You think on a deeper level. You pray in ways they don't understand. And you crave truth when others are content with tradition. And because of that, trying to fit in with people who aren't called like you will always leave you spiritually empty. Look back at your life. How many times did you try to be accepted? How many times did you lower your standard to stay connected? How many times did you feel drained after spending time with those who were supposed to pour into you? That wasn't coincidence. That was a misalignment. And every time you tried to shrink, mute, or mold yourself just to stay in their presence, your spirit grieved. Because, chosen one, you were never designed to be part of the crowd. You were created to lead it out. Just like Joseph couldn't blend in with his brothers, you couldn't blend in with your bloodline. God gave you dreams they couldn't comprehend. He gave you insight that made them uncomfortable. And instead of celebrating what was on your life, they rejected you for it. But rejection from people is often confirmation from heaven. God had to show you early on that your identity would never be found in human approval. He didn't let them receive you, because if they did, you would have found your worth in their acceptance, and that would have become a prison. So instead, He kept you as the outsider. He kept you as the black sheep, not to hurt you, but to protect what He placed inside you. And I know that kind of loneliness can feel unbearable. You've cried asking God, "Why do I feel so isolated? Why does no one understand me? Why can't I find where I belong?" But your soul isn't malfunctioning. It's been set to a higher frequency, You've been tuned to heaven's assignment, and Earth's systems, even your own family, can't handle that kind of sound. This is why certain conversations feel meaningless to you, why small talk exhausts you, why drama, gossip, and shallow living irritate your spirit. You've outgrown those environments not because you're proud, but because your soul has been trained in the secret place. You were shaped in solitude, not in social circles. And that training comes with a cost, but also with a crown. God has hidden you for a reason. He's preserved you for a season. He's called you to lead, not to fit. So stop trying to go back where God pulled you out of. Stop trying to blend in with people who only understand the old version of you. Stop grieving the connections that broke when you started growing. They had to break, because you can't stay bound to people who don't recognize the weight on your life. And when you finally embrace this truth, that you were never meant to fit in, something powerful happens. You stop apologizing for your calling. You stop explaining your growth. You stop trying to force old relationships to survive in your new identity, and instead, you walk forward boldly, unashamed, anointed. Because fitting in was never the goal. Alignment was. And now that God is aligning you with your real tribe, your spiritual family, your divine connections, your appointed destiny helpers, you'll finally feel at home. Not in a room, but in your calling. That's where you belong. That's where you lead. That's where you're known. So let go of the guilt. Let go of the disappointment. Let go of the desire to be accepted by people who were never built to carry you. You were not born to blend in. You were born to break cycles, shift atmospheres, and rise where no one else could. Chosen one, you don't fit in because you were born to stand out. Dreamers are always the most hated chosen one. Let's speak the truth. You didn't ask for the dream. It was given to you. You didn't go searching for vision, for revelation, for divine instruction. It found you. You were just being you, sensitive, obedient, connected to God. And suddenly, you started seeing things no one around you could see. You started dreaming of places you'd never been, hearing things no one else heard, and sensing a future that didn't look anything like your present. And from that moment forward, you became a target. Because dreamers are always the most hated. Not because they are loud, not because they are proud, but because they carry sight. And sight is threatening to people who are blind to purpose. You were hated because you saw too much. You were attacked because you spoke truth too early. You were mocked because you carried the future in your mouth, even while living in a present that didn't reflect it yet. Look at Joseph. All he did was share his dream. He simply expressed what God had shown him. And his brothers, his own blood, hated him for it. Not because of what he did, but because of what he saw. He hadn't even stepped into the fulfillment yet, and still, the jealousy was triggered. Why? Because vision will always stir up insecurity in those who don't see anything for themselves. You've experienced it too. You shared your excitement about what God showed you, and people laughed. You spoke about your vision, and they rolled their eyes. You tried to bring light, and they tried to dim it. It wasn't your personality. It wasn't your behavior. It was your assignment. You carry something bold, something prophetic, something too large for small minds to grasp. And instead of asking how they could grow with you, they tried to silence you. Don't take it personally. Take it prophetically. The fact that your dreams stirred up hate is evidence that your vision holds weight. People don't attack what's empty. They don't fight what's meaningless. But when someone sees you walking with divine instruction, especially when they've been stuck in cycles for years, their flesh rises up. Your destiny becomes a mirror to their delay, and your clarity becomes a threat to their complacency. You need to understand this deeply. Dreamers live under a different level of warfare, not because of who they are in the natural, but because of what they carry in the spirit. You're not just dreaming for yourself. You're dreaming for a generation. You're dreaming on behalf of a people who have lost vision. You're dreaming solutions, deliverance, change, impact. And every time you speak, it breaks spiritual fog. That's why hell comes for you so hard. That's why people try to label you as too much, too deep, or delusional. It's not about you. It's about the disruption your dream creates. Dreamers disturb atmospheres. Dreamers shift timelines. Dreamers expose the fact that God is still speaking, and that alone is enough to stir the hatred of those who no longer listen. But just like Joseph, you cannot silence your dream just because it makes others uncomfortable. If he had kept his dream to himself, he might have kept their approval, but he would have missed the process that led to the palace. Every time he spoke it, it got him closer to the pit. But the pit was part of the plan, because dreams don't just birth greatness, they refine it. And hear this clearly, you are not crazy, you're not imagining things. Those dreams, those ideas, those glimpses of what could be, they are spirit-breathed. God is showing you the future because he intends to use you to help create it. And he's not going to let you bury it just because the people around you can't see it. So stop dumbing it down, stop shrinking your vision, stop seeking approval from people who couldn't handle their own assignment, let alone yours. God didn't give your dream to your family. He gave it to you. He didn't show your vision to your friends. He showed you. And even if no one claps, supports, or understands, walk anyway. Speak anyway. Build anyway. Because the dream is still alive. And the same God who gave it to you is the one who will protect it and bring it to pass. So yes, dreamers are the most hated, but they're also the most dangerous. Because when a dreamer survives betrayal, overcomes the pit, and keeps trusting God, they become unstoppable and chosen one. That's who you're becoming. The pit was not the end. It was the process. Chosen one. The moment they betrayed you, the moment they cast you aside, the moment you found yourself isolated, abandoned, and misunderstood. That wasn't your end. That was your pit. And while the pit felt like punishment, while it looked like failure, while it seemed like everyone had forgotten about you, God hadn't. He saw exactly where you were, and he was still in control. Joseph was thrown into a pit by the same people who should have covered him. They didn't just disagree with him. They threw him down and walked away, assuming that would be the last they ever heard of his dreams. But what they didn't know, and what you must now understand, is that God uses the pit as part of the process. It's not the place where dreams die. It's the place where destiny is planted. The pit is dark, it's quiet, it's lonely, and it feels like loss. But in the spirit, it's where pride is broken. It's where self-dependence is stripped away. It's where faith stops being theory and becomes the only thing you have left. The pit is not your grave. It's your refiner's fire. It's where God removes everything and everyone that cannot go with you to the palace. It's where you stop needing validation, where you stop performing, where you finally begin to understand who you are without anyone clapping for you. If you've been in a pit season, emotionally, spiritually, financially, relationally, this is not where it ends. This is where the real version of you begins. The version of you that doesn't quit when you're tired. The version that learns to worship in silence. The version that prays without an audience. The version that obeys without a title. The version that learns how to hold the weight of calling without needing to be seen. God allowed the pit to teach you what the crowd never could, that He alone is your source, not your family, not your friends, not your platform. And until you learn that, you're not ready for the position He has prepared. The palace isn't just a place of favor, it's a place of pressure, and only those who have been processed can carry power without it corrupting them. Some of you are still in your pit. You're wondering when God is going to deliver you, when you'll finally be seen, heard, and honored. But the truth is, you're not stuck. You're in training. Every tear is washing away the need for validation. Every unanswered question is building your dependence on God's voice. Every delay is teaching you to walk by faith. You are being sharpened, refined, hidden, because what you carry is too valuable to be rushed. And while you feel forgotten, God is working in the background. Just like Joseph was eventually brought up out of that pit, your time is coming. And when it does, you won't have to force it. You won't have to manipulate it. You won't have to beg anyone to remember you. God will cause the right person to see you at the right time, because the process wasn't about punishment. It was about positioning. Do you see it now? The pit was never the end. It was the passage. It was the tunnel between what you were and who you're becoming. And once you come up out of it, you'll look nothing like who they threw down. You'll be wiser, stronger, anointed, unshakable. Because what grew in you in the dark will sustain you in the light. Stop calling it failure. Stop calling it abandonment. Call it what it really was: preparation. Heaven's version of boot camp. The molding ground for those called to carry nations, not just names. Joseph didn't stay in the pit, and neither will you. Because you are not buried, you are being planted. And when God is done cultivating you in the silence, you will rise with fruit no one saw coming. Chosen one, your pit is proof. Proof that you carry too much oil to be casual. Proof that your process is heaven ordained. And proof that your story, just like Joseph's, is far from over. From prison to palace, God will reveal you in due time. What they thought was the end of your story was only a pause in your preparation. After the pit, Joseph went to the prison. And many forget this part, the long, quiet stretch between the betrayal and the breakthrough. But God didn't, because in the prison, something even greater was happening than in the palace. In that place of confinement, Joseph's character was being refined, his leadership was being developed, and his heart was being matured for something so much bigger than his pain, a purpose that would preserve generations. You've been in your own prison season, not in chains of metal, but in chains of delay, silence, false accusation, misunderstanding, and isolation. You've felt stuck, forgotten, locked away while others seem to rise. You've watched people skip steps, get noticed, get promoted, and you've asked God, when will it be my time? But hear this clearly. The prison doesn't cancel the promise, it protects it. God hides the chosen ones in obscurity before he reveals them in power. Because what is built in secret cannot be broken in public. In that prison, Joseph still served. He interpreted dreams. He helped others. He stayed faithful even when he had every reason to shut down. And this is your word: stay faithful in the prison. Don't let delay cause disobedience. Don't let hiddenness kill your hope. Don't let the silence make you sabotage your own season. Because when God is ready to reveal you, no man, no system, no devil in hell can stop it. Your prison season has been the setup. God has been watching how you respond to closed doors. He's testing your patience, your obedience, your attitude. Not because he's cruel, but because he's preparing you to walk into rooms you didn't apply for, positions you didn't campaign for, and favor that you couldn't earn on your own. The palace is not given to those who chase it. It's given to those who endure the process. One day, Joseph was a prisoner. The next day, he was standing before Pharaoh. That's how fast God can shift a life. He didn't climb the ladder. He was pulled from the shadows because his moment had come. And chosen one, your moment is coming too. The divine release, the public recognition, the positioning in the very place your enemies said you'd never reach. It's all scheduled by heaven, and no delay, no detour, and no betrayal can cancel what God has placed on your life. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are being preserved. Because God doesn't reveal generals while they're still bleeding. He doesn't release mantles while your heart still needs healing. He doesn't rush his chosen ones. He refines them. And when your time comes, there will be no confusion, no competition, no counterfeit. Just open doors, divine favor, and supernatural positioning. This is why the enemy tried to make you give up in the prison. This is why he tried to convince you that it would always be like this. But he's a liar. And now you're beginning to see that the pit didn't kill you, and the prison didn't break you. It built you. It sharpened your discernment. It matured your spirit. It killed your need for validation. And now, you're becoming the kind of leader who can carry power without pride, authority without arrogance, and favor without forgetting where you came from. You're not being delayed. You're being developed. And when the moment of your release comes, it won't be about proving anything to those who doubted you. It will be about stepping fully into your God-given assignment without apology. Just like Joseph stood before Pharaoh with confidence and clarity, you will stand before your own platform, your own people, your own purpose, and it will be clear that God did it. So prepare. Get your spirit ready. Keep interpreting dreams in the prison. Keep praying in the shadows. Keep sharpening your gift while no one is watching. Because one day soon, the call will come, the door will open, and God will say, "Now, reveal them." From prison to palace is not just a metaphor. It's your prophetic journey. And when you step into it, no one will be able to deny that the same God who allowed your pit and your prison is the same God who placed you in the palace. Chosen one, hold on. You're not being punished. You're being prepared for a platform that only the processed can stand on. How to forgive the ones who hurt you. Chosen one, of all the lessons Joseph had to learn on his journey, the hardest and the most sacred was this: forgiveness. Not forgiveness of strangers, not forgiveness of enemies, but forgiveness of his own family. The ones who knew him, the ones who should have loved him, the ones who had the power to protect him, but chose betrayal instead. And now here you are, carrying the same weight. You've been anointed, gifted, set apart, but you've also been deeply wounded by the people who were supposed to be your foundation. Maybe it was a parent who broke your spirit, a sibling who betrayed your trust, a relative who tried to silence your voice. And even though time has passed, the pain still echoes in your soul. But hear this truth. Chosen one, you cannot carry both the mantle and the bitterness. The oil you carry must flow through a clean vessel, and that means at some point you will have to release the offense, not for their sake, but for yours. Joseph had every right to be angry. When his brothers came back into his life, hungry, desperate, broken, he could have punished them. He could have made them suffer the way they made him suffer. But instead, he wept. And when he finally revealed who he was, he said something so powerful it still echoes through time. You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. That is the voice of a healed man. That is the language of someone who no longer needs revenge. That is the heart posture of a leader who understands that purpose was bigger than pain. And that's where you must arrive. Not overnight, not perfectly, but gradually, step by spirit-led step. Because unforgiveness, even when justified, will contaminate your oil. It will distort your vision. It will make you lead from a wounded place instead of a whole one. And while your anger may feel righteous now, it can turn into a spiritual blockage that limits your capacity to love, lead, and rise. So how do you forgive people who never apologized? People who still don't think they were wrong? People who slept peacefully while you cried in silence for years? You choose to, not with your emotions, with your will. Forgiveness is not about denying what happened. It's not about minimizing the pain or pretending it didn't cut you. Forgiveness is about saying, I release you from my judgment so I can walk fully in what God has for me. It's about refusing to let the past poison your future, because whether they ask for it or not, your healing is your responsibility. And when you hold on to the hurt, you chain yourself to the very people and moments you're trying to move beyond. Start with honesty. Tell God the truth. Tell him about the rage, the confusion, the injustice. He can handle it. He's not asking you to skip over the pain, he's asking you to give it to him. Because only he can carry it without being contaminated by it. And only he can give you the strength to do what seems humanly impossible, to bless those who broke you. Then, pray for them. You don't have to feel it. Just begin. Ask God to touch their heart. Ask him to do what you can't. Something happens in the spirit when you stop rehearsing the betrayal and start releasing it. You're not saying what they did was okay. You're saying, God, I trust you to handle justice, so I don't have to live bound by it anymore. And most of all, forgive yourself for the years you spent in bitterness, for the anger you didn't know how to process, for the love you gave to people who didn't know how to receive it. You were doing the best you could with the light you had, but now you're healing, and you no longer need to be tethered to old pain to prove your strength. Joseph was only able to step fully into his destiny when his heart was clean, and the same is true for you. You are called to lead, called to carry, called to rise, but you cannot build a future while holding on to the ruins of your past. So forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you do. You deserve peace. You deserve freedom. You deserve to walk into your palace season without dragging the prison chains behind you. Forgiveness is not weakness, it's wisdom. And when you let go, truly let go, you don't lose power. You take it back. You were set apart to save the same ones who betrayed you. Chosen one. This final truth may be the hardest to accept, but it's the one that will unlock the fullness of your assignment. You were set apart not just to survive, but to save. And yes, that includes even the very people who betrayed you. This is what made Joseph's story so powerful. Not the dream, not the favor, not even the rise to power. The most powerful moment in Joseph's journey came when he stood face to face with the same brothers who plotted his death. And he didn't choose revenge. He chose redemption. After years of separation, hardship, and hiddenness, Joseph had been elevated to a place where he could have crushed those who crushed him. But instead, he fed them, he wept for them, he covered them, and through it all, he finally understood the why behind all the pain. God sent me ahead of you to preserve life. Chosen one, this is your reality too. Everything you went through, the betrayal, the rejection, the isolation, the pit, the prison. It was all preparation to become a vessel of preservation. God allowed you to be broken so that he could trust you to carry the ones who broke you. Not because they deserve your mercy, but because you've been entrusted with divine maturity. You're not here to destroy them. You're here to redeem the bloodline they tried to bind you to. You're here to break generational curses, to rewrite the story, to rise so high that even those who couldn't see your value will one day benefit from your obedience. That is true leadership. That is true favor. And that is why the enemy fought you so hard. Because once a chosen one realizes they were set apart not just for greatness, but for reconciliation, hell loses its grip, bitterness loses its voice. And healing begins to flow not just through you, but through everyone connected to your name. You are Joseph. You were misunderstood, so you could carry wisdom. You were hated, so you could lead without ego. You were broken, so you could rise with compassion. And now God is saying, what they meant for evil, I'm using for good. Not just for you, but for them too. Chosen one, it's not about being praised, it's about being positioned. Positioned to carry mercy, positioned to model grace, positioned to lead people back to God, even those who once tried to bury you. Comment, I'm Joseph, if this final word confirmed your story. Comment, 8, 8, 8. If you feel the shift in your spirit and know your assignment just became clear. Now share this video with someone who's still stuck in their pit, thinking the story ends there. Subscribe to Rise of the Chosen, tap the bell, and remember, you were not just chosen to survive, you were chosen to save. and the time is now.